Nobody in the hospital could forget the moment a trembling 1-2-year-old girl offered her own life in exchange for her mother's. It happened in a single breath, raw, shaking, desperate. Asha stood in the cold fluorescent hallway, rainwater dripping from her clothes, her small hands clutching the sleeve of Dr. Cato's coat as stretchers rushed past them. Her mother Zawadi lay unconscious on a gurney skin, pale breaths fading like dying embers. Nurses shouted orders. Machines screamed warnings. But Asha only saw one thing. The last person who could save her world. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Please save my mom. Take anything from me." The entire corridor froze. Doctors paused mid-step. A wealthy family waiting nearby looked at her with irritation, as though her desperation polluted their perfect world. And Dr. Cato, who had sworn never again to break a hospital rule, felt something inside him shatter, because he could tell whatever poisoned Zawadi wasn't an accident. And this little girl had just stepped into a storm far bigger than she knew. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. And if you enjoy emotional African folktale dramas, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Dr. Cato didn't remember the last time a single sentence shook him so violently. Asha's whisper kept echoing in his ears as he pushed the gurney toward the emergency bay. Her tiny fingers were still gripping his sleeve, knuckles white, as if letting go would mean losing her mother forever. The corridor behind them buzzed with whispers, some pitying, some annoyed, some judgmental. But none of that mattered to the girl stumbling to keep up beside him. "Stay close," Cato said gently. Asha nodded, though her eyes were glued to her mother's still face. Zawadi looked nothing like the bright laughing woman the market vendors adored. She was limp-skinned, clammy lips tinted with a faint bluish shade. Whatever had struck her down, it was fast, violent, unforgiving. Inside the emergency room, bright white lights washed over Zawadi as the nurses surrounded her. Monitors beeped erratically, IV lines were connected, and the metallic smell of antiseptics filled the air. Asha stood frozen just outside the swinging doors, unable to breathe. Cato turned to her. "Tell me everything. What happened before she collapsed?" Asha swallowed hard. We were at the marketplace. She was selling vegetables like always. Then she touched her stomach and said it felt like it was burning. And then she fell. She wouldn't wake up. Did she eat anything unusual? Asha shook her head desperately. "No. She barely ate at all today. We didn't have much." Her voice wavered and Cato noticed the tear tracks drying on her cheeks. She wasn't a child used to crying. That much he could tell. Before he could ask more, a nurse rushed out. "Doctor, you need to see this." Cato's stomach tightened. "Stay here," he told Asha. "I'll be back." But the girl reached out and grabbed his wrist, not aggressively, but with fear so raw it felt like glass. "Please don't leave her." Cato wished he could promise the world. Instead, he squeezed her hand once firmly. "I'm not going anywhere." Inside, the nurse pointed at Zawadi's blood sample under the rapid analysis light. "Her levels are abnormal. Something is attacking her liver fast. And look at this pattern. This isn't natural." Cato leaned closer. His jaw tightened. He recognized the markers immediately. They mirrored cases from years ago, cases involving silent poisoning used in rural land disputes, quiet eliminations done by people who wanted others gone without raising suspicion. The toxin was subtle but lethal if not treated in time. He felt a cold shiver run through him. Where would she come into contact with this? The nurse shook her head. Unless someone wanted her to. Cato exhaled sharply. Memories he wished he had buried clawed their way back, villages torn apart, families destroyed, lands stolen under the cover of sickness. He had left that world behind, or so he thought. He stepped back into the hallway and Asha immediately rushed toward him. "Is she better? Is she breathing? Please tell me she's fighting," he said. "And I need you to be brave for her." Asha nodded, wiping her face. But her eyes were full of questions, bigger questions than any child should have to ask. Before he could guide her to the waiting bench, someone coughed behind them. A wealthy woman dressed in a shimmering gold shawl stood only a few feet away. Her expression twisted with annoyance. "Doctor, are you forgetting that my daughter Naya has been waiting 30 minutes? She's running a fever and we pay for VIP service here." Cato's jaw tightened. "Your daughter has a mild temperature." "She's stable. A fever is never mild," the woman snapped. "And look at all this commotion for someone who clearly cannot afford to be here." Asha stepped back, instinctively shielding the small bag of coins around her neck, as if it contained her entire life, likely because it did. Cato kept his voice steady. This girl's mother is in critical condition. She needs urgent treatment. The woman scoffed. If the hospital starts letting anyone walk in from the street, we might as well turn the lobby into a homeless shelter. Asha stiffened. Kato saw her shoulders tremble, not with fear this time, but with a quiet, burning humiliation. Before Kato could speak, a teenage girl around 16 peeked out from behind the wealthy woman. She wore a stylish jacket and diamond earrings, clearly spoiled, but with softer eyes. "Mother, don't say it like that," she murmured. "It's not fair. Naya, stay out of this," her mother hissed. But Naya's gaze lingered on Asha, almost as if she recognized something. Kato ushered Asha away to the waiting corner, but she tugged the sleeve of his coat again. "Doctor, why did that woman act like she knew my mom?" Kato frowned. "What do you mean?" Asha whispered. When she looked at her, she seemed scared, like she wasn't expecting to see her here. Kato hadn't noticed that, but Asha's voice was steady, certain. She wasn't imagining things. He crouched down to her level. "Did your mother ever mention someone from a wealthy family, or from this part of town?" "She doesn't talk about the past," Asha said softly. "She only says we must keep moving, always moving." "Why?" Kato asked gently. "So no one finds us." Kato felt a chill crawl across his spine. Before he could respond, a security guard passed by, muttering under his breath. He didn't see Asha, or maybe he did and didn't care. "Shame," he spat under his breath. "That woman should have stayed away. Now problems will start again." Asha's head snapped up. "What did you say?" The guard froze, eyes widening slightly when he realized she'd heard him. "Nothing. Mind your business, little girl." "You said something about my mom." Asha stepped closer. "What did you mean by problems starting again?" "It's not my place to talk," he said, suddenly nervous. "Just forget what you heard." But Asha recognized fear. She had seen it on too many faces, in too many markets, when people whispered about things they weren't supposed to say. Someone knew her mother, someone feared her return, and someone didn't want her alive. Kato stood and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Asha, you should rest. I'll keep checking on your mother." But the girl shook her head stubbornly. "I'm not resting, not until I know what's happening. My mom wasn't supposed to get sick. She's strong, she's careful. She always says enemies can't hurt you if you never let them see you." The doctor's breath caught. Enemies? Asha looked up at him, eyes dark and heavy, with a truth far too old for a child. "Doctor! People have been chasing us for years." Kato felt his pulse jump. "Why?" Asha hesitated, voice shrinking to a whisper. "Because of the land." Before Kato could ask more, alarms blared from the emergency room. Nurses ran past them. Zawadi was crashing again. "Asha, stay here," Kato commanded as he pushed through the doors, but Asha ignored him and ran after her, heart slamming against her ribs. She could hear the machines beeping frantically, the medical staff shouting for adrenaline, and Kato calling orders sharply. Her mother's body arched as they tried to revive her. "Asha, you can't be in here," a nurse tried to pull her back. "No," Asha cried, breaking free. "Mom, please, please stay with me." Through the chaos, Kato caught her eyes. "Asha, listen to me, we won't give up. But you must let us work." Asha's tears spilled silently. She pressed both palms against the glass observation window as the team fought for Zawadi's life. A single, terrible thought wrapped around her like a tightening rope. If my mother dies, I will be completely alone. And somewhere in the shadows of the hospital hallway, a figure watched Asha with an expression that was not pity, but calculation. Dr. Kato stood over Zawadi's trembling body, every muscle in his face pulled tight with concentration. The emergency room felt suffocating, too bright, too loud, too frantic. Nurses scrambled around him, handing syringes, adjusting oxygen levels, calling out vitals that dipped lower each second. The toxin was spreading faster than he expected. "She's not responding to the first dose," one nurse cried. "Prepare a second line," Kato ordered. "Increase fluids. I want her liver supported immediately." Outside the glass window, Asha's small figure remained pressed against the pane, her breath fogging the surface. Her tears made faint streaks down the glass, but she did not move, did not blink, did not break. Her entire world was behind that window. Dr. Nurse Rama whispered urgently, "If we don't find the source of the toxin, we're just buying time." Kato knew she was right. The antidote could only stabilize temporarily. If the poison entered her bloodstream recently, it might still be detectable in her stomach or on her clothing. They needed to know exactly what had poisoned her. But another voice yelled from down the hall, slicing through the tension like a blade. "What is happening here?" The hospital director, Mr. Mbele, stormed into the emergency wing with his usual puffed-up arrogance. He stopped dead when he saw Zawadi on the bed. His eyes narrowed. "Why is that woman here?" he snarled. "This isn't a public hospital. She is not a paying patient, and you know the rules, doctor." Kato didn't even look at him. "We're trying to save a life." Mbele's lip curled. "A life that cannot pay. And one that is bringing trouble." Asha heard that clearly through the window. Her little fists clenched. Kato finally turned, eyes burning with frustration. "Are you implying you know what happened to her?" "I am implying," Mbele said coldly, "that this hospital cannot afford to treat every stranger that wanders in from the streets. And certainly not someone like her." Asha stepped into the room before anyone could stop her. "What do you mean, someone like her?" she demanded, voice shaking with fury. The director blinked, startled. Kato immediately moved to block the girl. "Asha, you shouldn't be here." "No," she cried. "He knows something. They all keep saying things. Why? Why does everyone act like they're afraid of my mom?" The room went still. Even the machine seemed to quiet for a heartbeat. Mbele gathered himself, adjusting his coat. "Little girl, go sit down. This situation is already more complicated than you can understand." "Then explain it to me," Asha shouted. "Because if my mom dies, I won't have anyone left." That pierced through the coldest heart in the room, but not Mbele's. He sighed dismissively. "Take her outside. She's interfering." A nurse gently tried to guide Asha away, but she twisted out of the hold, rushing back to the glass where her mother lay. Kato stepped toward the director. "You will not speak to her that way, and you will not touch her mother. As long as I am the attending physician, I will treat any patient whose life is in danger." "Then consider yourself suspended," Mbele snapped. Effective immediately. The words hit like a hammer. Nurses gasped. Asha looked up sharply, panic flaring again. "Suspended? No, he's the only one helping her." Kato opened his mouth, but before he could defend himself, Zawadi's monitor let out a long, piercing alarm. She was crashing. Again, Kato lunged back to her side, barking orders. "Charge to 100, clear!" Her body jerked as electricity coursed through her chest. The line on the monitor trembled, faltered, struggled to return. Again. "Clear!" This time the rhythm fluttered back, weak, uneven, but alive. Asha collapsed to her knees, sobbing into her palms. Kato didn't look away from the monitor. "She needs the antidote immediately." "Rama, get the compound ready." "Full dose." Rama hesitated. "Doctor," without clearance. "Do it," he said. "Now." While Rama rushed out, Kato leaned closer to Zawadi, voice lowering to a whisper only she could hear. "Fight. Your daughter still needs you. Don't let whoever did this win." He didn't know if she could hear him, but he swore her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Behind him, the director seethed. "I will have you removed from this hospital, Kato, and you will never practice again." Kato finally turned, and for the first time everyone in the room saw anger, not explosive, but cold, sharp, and unyielding. "Then take my license," he said, "but you will not take her life." Before Mbele could respond, a shadow appeared in the doorway. A security guard, tall, nervous, carried a small plastic bag. "Dr. Kato, I think you should see this." Kato frowned. "What is it?" The guard looked directly at Asha before speaking. "It was found in the market, near the place where the woman collapsed. Inside the bag was a half-eaten piece of dried fruit, dark, sticky, faintly, bitter-smelling." Asha gasped. My mom didn't eat that today." "She didn't," the guard confirmed. "But she touched it. It was on her stall. Someone placed it there." Kato narrowed his eyes. "Poisoned." The guard nodded silently. "But why?" Kato asked. The guard swallowed and leaned in. "Doctor, I shouldn't say this, but the people looking for her mother, they're dangerous. They don't want anyone to know the truth." Asha stepped forward, voice trembling. "What truth?" But before the guard could answer, the hallway lights flickered. Just for a moment, but long enough for everyone to feel something shift. A wind-like hush swept through the corridors, the kind that comes before a storm breaks. Rama rushed back in with the antidote syringe, interrupting the moment. "Doctor, the compound is ready." Kato checked the dosage, then nodded. "Let's save her." He injected the antidote into Zawadi's foreline. Her body tensed, reacting hard violently, but then slowly eased. Her breathing deepened, the monitor steadied, and color began returning to her cheeks. Asha pressed her palms desperately to the glass. Mom, please come back." Minutes crawled by with agonizing slowness. Then a faint groan escaped Zawadi's lips. "Asha," she whispered weakly, though her eyes didn't open. The girl's knees buckled with relief. "She's responding," Kato confirmed. Asha cried harder, this time with hope. But the moment was shattered by a familiar icy voice from behind them. "Well," a woman said smoothly, I see the past has finally caught up to her. Everyone turned. Standing in the hallway was the wealthy woman Malkia. Her gold shawl shimmered under the fluorescent light like a warning banner. Beside her, Naya hovered nervously, eyes fixed on Asha. Cato stepped forward. Mrs. Malkia, this is an emergency wing. You shouldn't, I know exactly where I am, she said sharply, and I know exactly who that woman is. Her gaze slid to the window to the barely conscious Zawadi. A ghost, she whispered. One I thought would never return. Asha straightened slowly. Her fear hardened into something else, something sharper. You know my mother, she said quietly. Malkia stiffened. Naya whispered, Mom, don't. But Malkia lifted her chin, voice dropping to a cold whisper. She should never have come back to this town. Asha's heart pounded. Why? What did she do? Malkia's eyes darkened. It's not what she did, she said. It's what she knows. Before Asha could demand more, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the corridor like a door being forced open. Every security guard suddenly scrambled toward the sound, and the shadow that had been watching Asha earlier stepped fully into the hallway. He was tall, scarred, and staring directly at the girl with a cold hunger in his eyes. Asha, doctor? Cato whispered, moving in front of her instinctively. But the man smiled, a slow, chilling smile. Time's up, little girl. The hallway seemed to shrink as the man stepped forward, his heavy boots echoing on the polished floor. Asha instinctively moved back until her shoulders hit the wall. Doctor, Cato shifted in front of her, forming a human shield, though he had no idea what he could actually protect her from. The man's eyes never left the girl. They were cold, predatory eyes of someone who knew exactly what he wanted. Security, Cato barked. But the guards who had run toward the initial noise were nowhere in sight. The corridor felt eerily empty, as though the hospital itself was holding its breath. Malkia's face drained of color. Her hand flew to her mouth and she whispered a name so softly only Naya heard it. Barongo. Naya gasped. Mom, we shouldn't be here. But Barongo was already striding closer, ignoring everyone else as though they were furniture. Only Asha mattered. You've grown, he said in a deep, gravelly voice. She hid you well. Too well. Asha's voice trembled. Who are you? The man smiled without warmth. Someone who has been looking for your mother for many years. And now, thanks to the good doctor and his noble heart, she's finally where we can reach her. Cato clenched his fists. If you take one more step, Barongo raised an eyebrow. You'll what? Call the police, the hospital staff, they're already occupied. As if on cue, a distant shout echoed down the hall, guards arguing with someone, chaos building. Barongo had planned this. Asha stared at him, fear tightening around her ribs. Why are you doing this? My mom didn't hurt anyone. Barongo chuckled, but it was a dark, broken sound. She hurt the wrong people. She kept what wasn't hers. At that, Malkia spoke up, shaken voice unsteady. She kept what your father stole. Don't twist the truth. Barongo's head snapped toward her. You, he hissed, venom dripping from the single word. You have no right to speak after what your family did. Naya grabbed her mother's arm. Mom, please, we need to go. But Malkia stayed rooted in place, staring at Barongo with a mix of guilt and fury. Cato took advantage of the momentary distraction. Asha, he murmured, without turning his head, run. Now. But before the girl could even move, Barongo extended his hand sideways without looking. The gesture was subtle, but terrifyingly confident. Try to run, he said softly. And I'll end this whole hallway. Asha froze. Her breath quivered. Barongo stepped forward again, slow and deliberate. I don't want to hurt you, child. I only want the truth she kept from us. Cato's voice hardened. She's a child. Leave her out of whatever your vendetta is. Oh, Dr. Barongo said almost playfully, children inherit everything, their parents' land, their debts, their enemies. Asha's stomach twisted. But then, the emergency room doors behind them burst open. Zawadi's weak voice, barely audible, rasped through the room. Leave my daughter alone. Every head turned. Zawadi was half sitting on the bed, trembling violently, sweat beading across her forehead. Nurse Rama tried to push her back down. Ma'am, you can't get up your heart. I don't care, Zawadi whispered, her gaze locked on Barongo. You, stay away. Barongo tilted his head in mock pity. Zawadi, you look terrible. Go, she said again, voice cracking. You've done enough. He laughed lightly. Not yet. You still haven't given me what's mine. Asha stepped forward. Stop talking like that. My mom owns nothing of yours. Barongo's gaze slid back to her, colder than before. She didn't tell you, Asha blinked, confused. Barongo spread his hands dramatically. Your mother stole land that belonged to my family. Land worth more than any child can imagine. That land was my mother's inheritance, Zawadi spat weakly. Yours was the forged deed. Your father took everything from us. I only took back what was right. You took back more than land, Barongo snarled. You took back a life. Asha's pulse stumbled. What does that mean? Barongo smirked. Oh, she didn't tell you. Of course she didn't. Zawadi's eyes widened in dread. Don't, she whispered. Don't you dare. But Barongo raised his voice deliberately. She didn't tell you that your father died because of her. Asha's world tilted. What? Zawadi's breath caught panic tearing through her face. Asha, don't listen, Barongo kept going, savoring each word. He died protecting her, and she hid everything from you. Asha shook her head violently. No, she said he died when I was a baby. Oh, he died, Barongo said, but not the way she told you. Zawadi's body trembled uncontrollably. Stop, she's just a child. And you, Barongo said darkly, were just a thief. He stepped closer. That was the breaking point for Kato. He moved. It wasn't a jump or a reckless charge. It was a calculated, swift motion as he reached for the emergency alarm on the wall. If he triggered it, the entire hospital would flood with personnel. Barongo saw it coming and lunged. The two men collided hard. Aisha screamed. Naya grabbed her mother and ducked behind a pillar as the fight erupted, punches thrown, bodies slamming into walls, metal carts crashing to the floor. Kato fought with surprising strength, fueled by fear and duty. But Barongo was bigger, heavier, and viciously experienced. He grabbed Kato by the collar and smashed him into the wall. You think you can stand between me and what's mine? Kato spat blood. She's not yours. Barongo drew back a fist. But Asha hurled herself forward, grabbing his arm with both hands. Stop hurting him, she cried. Her small voice cracked through the chaos. Barongo froze, not out of mercy, but surprise. He looked down at the trembling girl holding his arm. You're brave, he murmured, just like her. Zawadi pushed herself off the bed with a strength she didn't have, stumbling toward them. Let her go, she cried. Her legs buckled. Rahma gasped. She'll collapse. But Zawadi forced herself to stand, one hand gripping the doorframe, the other clutching her chest. Barongo's eyes narrowed slowly, cruelly. You want the truth, child? He asked Asha. Fine. I'll give it to you. Zawadi shook her head desperately. No, Asha, close your ears, Barongo whispered. Your father died trying to save her life. And the man who killed him was me. Silence detonated. Everything stopped. Even the air froze. Zawadi collapsed to her knees with a sound that wasn't a scream, but something worse. A sound ripped from a soul. Asha staggered back. You killed my father. Barongo's expression didn't change. He was in my way. Asha's heart shattered. Then why? Why are you after us? Because Barongo said, voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Your mother stole more than land. She stole a future that should have been mine. At that moment, a loud click echoed in the hall. Every pair of eyes turned. Malkia stood holding a security guard's stun gun, hands trembling violently. Barongo, she whispered, leave that child before I end you myself. Barongo raised an eyebrow. You? Yes, she said, voice cracking. You won't destroy another life because of our father's sins. For the first time, Barongo hesitated. Just a fraction. But it was enough. Kato lunged up from the floor, slamming the emergency alarm with his elbow. Sirens erupted through the hospital. Heavy boots thundered from every direction. Barongo bared his teeth, but he knew he was outnumbered. He backed away slowly, staring at Asha. This isn't over. Then he turned and sprinted toward the stairwell just as guards flooded the hallway. Asha fell to her knees, shaking violently. Zawadi crawled to her, wrapping trembling arms around her daughter. I'm sorry, she cried. I wanted to protect you. I wanted to keep you safe. I never wanted you to know. Asha sobbed into her mother's chest. Kato, battered and bruised, knelt beside them. It's not over, he whispered. But you're not alone anymore. And somewhere down the stairwell, fleeing into the night, Barongo smiled. Because the truth was only beginning. The hospital slowly returned to motion, but nothing felt normal anymore. The sirens died down, the guards dispersed, and the bright hallway lights steadied. But beneath that artificial calm was a tension so thick it made the air vibrate. Asha remained pressed against her mother's chest, small fingers gripping Zawadi's gown, as if afraid she'd be pulled away again. Zawadi, trembling, violently stroked Asha's hair despite her own weakening body. Dr. Kato leaned against the wall, catching his breath as blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. He kept one eye on the stairwell where Barongo had vanished. He knew that danger wasn't gone, it had simply retreated. Barongo had revealed far too much to walk away quietly. Nurse Rama approached cautiously, voice soft. "Doctor, we need to get Miss Zawadi back to bed. Her heart can't handle more strain." Zawadi nodded weakly, but when the nurses tried to lift her, her hands clung to Asha. "She stays with me," she whispered. "Please, don't take her away." "No one is taking her," Kato assured, "but you need to lie down if you want to survive the next hour." Finally, Zawadi allowed them to wheel her back into the emergency room. Asha followed, refusing to be more than an arm's length away. Kato walked beside them, ignoring the throbbing in his ribs. Inside, the medical team worked quickly. IV fluids were adjusted, new monitors attached, and the antidote dosage carefully regulated. Zawadi's vitals slowly steadied, though her skin remained pale and clammy. Asha sat on the bed beside her, clutching her hand tightly. Kato watched them silently. The bond between mother and daughter pulsed with fierce love and deep secrets. When Zawadi finally drifted into a fragile sleep, Asha looked at Kato with eyes that had aged years in mere minutes. "Is she going to die?" she whispered. "Not if I can help it," Kato said. "But she needs rest, and we need answers." Asha swallowed. "About my father," Kato nodded. "And about why Barongo wants your family destroyed." Before Asha could respond, someone knocked sharply on the glass door. Malkia stood outside. Her gold shawl was wrapped tightly around her shoulders, as if the temperature had dropped. Naya hovered behind her, wide-eyed and frightened. The tension between mother and daughter was obvious. Naya clearly wanted to leave, but Malkia wasn't budging. Kato stepped outside to confront her. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Might I remind you," Malkia responded stiffly, "that my daughter is a patient at this hospital, and I have every right to be on this floor." "Your daughter has been stable for hours," Kato replied. "You're not here for her." Malkia's jaw tightened. "No, I'm not." She looked through the glass at Zawadi lying unconscious, and something flickered across her face. Not anger, not hatred. Something closer to regret. "Doctor," she said, lowering her voice, "there are things you do not understand." "I understand enough," Kato retorted. "Someone poisoned this woman. Someone tried to kill her. And someone is chasing her child." At that, Malkia flinched. "My family," she whispered, "has a history we've buried for decades. And it seems the past no longer wishes to stay buried." Kato crossed his arms. "Start talking." Malkia hesitated, but Naya stepped forward, surprising them both. "Just tell him, Mom," she pleaded. "People are getting hurt." "That girl," almost Naya, Malkia warned sharply. But Naya stood her ground. "If you know something that can help them, you have to say it." The hallway went silent. Finally, Malkia let out a tremor-filled breath. "You think Barongo is dangerous?" she began. "You don't know the half of it." Kato's brows furrowed. "Then tell us." Malkia leaned against the wall, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Years ago, our fathers, mine and Barongo's, controlled large portions of land up north, land that did not belong to them. They forged documents, threatened families, forced people to leave their homes, including Zawadi's mother." Kato felt his stomach twist. "So Zawadi's family was a victim?" "Yes," Malkia said quietly. "But there was more. When Zawadi grew older, she confronted my father about the stolen land. She had proof records her mother kept hidden. My father panicked. He feared scandal, feared losing everything. So he took drastic measures." "Such as poisoning?" Kato asked. Malkia's face darkened. "He sent men to silence her, but someone else got in the way." "Asha's father," Kato understood before she even spoke. "He died, saving her," he said softly. "Yes." Malkia didn't look away. "Barongo never forgave her for that. He believes Zawadi's mother used the land dispute to elevate herself, that she stole power and legacy that should have remained with his family." "And what do you believe Kato challenged?" Malkia's voice cracked. "I believe my father destroyed innocent lives, and I stood by and watched." The weight of her confession hung heavy in the air, but Kato wasn't satisfied. "And the poison today, is it connected to that history?" Malkia nodded. "The same formula was used decades ago. Only someone from Barongo's circle would know how to recreate it." Kato exhaled slowly. "So this wasn't random, this was retribution." "No," Malkia whispered. "This was fear. Barongo knows something else, something bigger." Kato leaned in. What she hesitated, then spoke the words that made Kato's blood run cold. "There is a second deed, hidden. And whoever controls it, controls all the land." Kato stared at her. "Are you saying Zawadi has it?" "I'm saying," Malkia whispered, "that Barongo thinks she does. Behind them, Asha slowly stepped out of the room. She had heard everything. Her face was pale, her eyes distant. Mama has the deed, she asked quietly. Malkia pressed a hand to her chest. She might, or your father might have left it with someone before he died. But Barongo won't stop until he has it. Asha's heartbeat pounded in her ears. But why does he think I know anything? Malkia looked away, ashamed. Because a long time ago, your father sent a letter to someone. A letter saying he was entrusting the deed to protect his daughter's future. Cato narrowed his eyes, entrusting it to whom? Malkia swallowed hard. To me, the hallway went dead silent. Asha stared at her speechless. You have my father's letter, Asha whispered. All this time, Malkia nodded slowly, guilt dripping from every word. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I was afraid of what it meant. I told myself it wasn't my place, but the truth is, I was a coward. Asha's hands balled into trembling fists. You could have protected us. I know, Malkia whispered brokenly. And I didn't. Naya stepped beside her mother and placed a gentle hand on her arm. Mom, do the right thing. Please. Malkia closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek. I will. She turned to Asha. The letter is at my home, locked in a cabinet. I will bring it to you, but we must be careful. If Barongo realizes I have it, he'll come for us all. Cato stepped closer. Then we'll get it together. No one goes alone. But Asha shook her head slowly. No, I'm going. Cato blinked. Asha, absolutely not. That letter is my father's last message, she said. For 12 years I've had nothing from him. I need to see it. She looked at Cato, voice trembling but determined. And if that letter can save my mom, then I won't hide anymore. Her words hung between them, fragile but powerful. Cato exhaled. Then I'm going with you, he said. Both of you. Malkia nodded. Naya bit her lip. I'm coming too. No, Malkia said sharply. Yes, Naya insisted. If Barongo is after our family, I'm not sitting at home waiting to be a target. Cato rubbed his forehead. This is becoming more dangerous by the minute. A sudden cry from inside the emergency room jolted them. Zawadi was awake, thrashing, gasping eyes wide with terror. Asha ran to her. Mama Zawadi grabbed her arm with surprising strength. You must go, she rasped. Get the letter before he does. Asha looked at the others, fear twisting her stomach. Cato nodded solemnly. We leave in 10 minutes. And somewhere deep inside the hospital, Barongo listened through a cracked doorway, smiling, because now he knew exactly where they were going, and he would be waiting. The rain had returned by the time the group was ready to leave the hospital. Sheets of water hammered against the entrance canopy, turning the parking lot into a shimmering mirror of headlights and distorted shadows. Thunder rolled above them like a warning drum, as if the sky itself understood that the night was about to split open. Asha tightened her grip on her small backpack inside. It was only a bottle of water, a torn scarf of her mother's, and a courage she didn't feel. She kept glancing back toward the hospital doors, torn between staying with her mother and going after the truth that might save her. Cato noticed her hesitation. Zawadi will be safe here, he said gently. I had the guards move her to a restricted room. Barongo can't reach her right now. But he'll try, Asha whispered. Yes, Cato admitted, but he won't succeed. Asha exhaled shakily. She didn't fully believe him, but she needed to believe someone. Malkia and Naya approached next. Malkia had changed into a long, dark coat, her hair tied back tightly, her expression stern and unreadable. Naya wore a hoodie and clutched her phone nervously, glancing around as if expecting Barongo to appear from behind every pillar. Is your car ready? Cato asked. Malkia nodded. It's parked on the lower level. Less exposed, Cato frowned. Lower level is a blind spot. If Barongo is watching us, that's exactly where he'd wait. Exactly why he won't expect us to go there, Malkia countered. He'll think we're smarter than that. Naya sighed. Mom, I'm not sure that's how this logic works, but they moved anyway. They took a staff elevator down to the parking garage. The doors slid open to reveal a dim, echoing concrete space. The hum of fluorescent lights overhead created an uneasy buzz. Water dripped rhythmically from somewhere, tapping like footsteps, too light to be human. Stay close, Cato murmured. Asha was already close, almost glued to his side. The car, a dark-colored SUV, sat near the exit ramp. Its metal surface glistened with moisture, reflecting the overhead lights like fractured stars. For a moment, the garage seemed empty. Then a metallic slam echoed from somewhere behind them. Naya jumped. What was that? Probably just a door, Kato said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Asha's voice quivered. He's here, Malkia swallowed. Let's move quickly. They reached the car. Malkia unlocked it with trembling fingers, the click echoing too loudly in the cavernous garage. Kato opened the back door for Asha and Naya. As Asha climbed in, she paused. Something didn't feel right. She reached out and touched the seat lightly. Warm. Too warm. As if someone had been sitting there minutes ago. Kato, she whispered urgently, someone was inside. Before he could respond, a voice drifted from the shadows behind them. You are learning, little girl. Kato spun, pushing Asha behind him. Barongo stepped into the light. Not running this time, not hiding, walking, slowly, deliberately, like a man who knew he held every advantage. I wondered how long it would take you to realize, Barongo said. His smirk curved dangerously. You're clever. Your father was clever too. Malkia's voice hardened. Barongo, it's over. Walk away. He chuckled. Over? Because you say so. You were always delusional about your power, Malkia. Naya bristled. Don't speak to her like that. Oh, the princess speaks, Barongo mocked. Kato stepped forward. Let the girl go. This has nothing to do with her. That's where you're wrong, Barongo said. Tonight it has everything to do with all of you. He reached into his coat. Naya grabbed Asha's hand. Malkia gasped. Kato tensed, ready to lunge. But Barongo didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out an envelope. Thin, crumpled, old. Asha's heart stopped. That looks like she began. Yes, Barongo said. Your father's letter. Even Malkia froze. That's impossible. I locked it away. No one else has a key. Keys are irrelevant, Barongo replied casually. Fear opens more doors than metal. Kato gritted his teeth. You broke into her home. Of course I did. Barongo tilted his head, amused by the obviousness. I knew you would run there eventually. I simply arrived first. Asha felt nausea rise. You read it. Barongo's smile widened. Every word. He held up the envelope. This little piece of paper will change everything. Malkia stepped forward despite her fear. Give it to the girl. It belongs to her. Barongo raised one eyebrow. Does it? Her father trusted you with it, and you failed him. Naya's eyes filled with tears. Mom didn't know what to do. Barongo shrugged. Excuses. The dead do not care. He opened the envelope slowly, pulling out a weathered sheet of paper. The sound of the paper sliding out echoed through the garage like a heartbeat. Asha stepped forward. Please. Something in her voice, fragile but brave, made even Barongo pause. For a moment his expression flickered with something almost human, but it vanished. You want the truth, he said, unfolding the letter. Here it is. He began reading aloud, slow, cruel, savoring each sentence like poison. To my daughter Asha. Asha staggered. It is my hope that one day you will read this and understand why I had to make the choices I did. There is more to your family than your mother has been able to tell you. Her breath caught. Barongo continued. The land your grandmother fought to protect is yours by right, and with it comes danger. I leave the deed in the hands of a woman I trust, Malkia, because she will do what must be done if I do not survive. Malkia covered her mouth as tears slid down her cheeks. And one more truth, Barongo read, his voice tightening, not with emotion but with triumph. Your bloodline carries something powerful, something that could change everything for the generations after you. Asha whispered. What does that mean? Barongo lowered the paper. It means, he said slowly, that you are worth far more alive than your mother ever was. Something snapped inside Kato. He lunged forward and grabbed Barongo's wrist. Enough. But Barongo was prepared. He twisted, using Kato's momentum, and slammed him against the hood of the car. The echo thundered through the garage. Kato Asha screamed. Naya pulled her back just as Barongo raised his fist, only for a piercing alarm to explode across the parking garage. Red emergency lights flashed. Multiple footsteps thundered from the stairwells. The security reinforcements Kato had requested earlier were finally arriving. Barongo hissed in frustration. He backed away quickly, eyes darting around. He wouldn't win a fight with 10 guards, but he wasn't leaving empty-handed. He pointed at Asha. This isn't over. You are the key, and I will find you. Then he sprinted toward the opposite exit ramp. Guards chased after him, but he was fast, inhumanly fast in his desperation. Within seconds, he vanished into the storm outside. Asha collapsed beside Kato as he sat up groaning. I'm okay, he murmured, though he clearly wasn't. You're safe, That's what matters. Asha's voice shook. He read the letter. He knows everything. Malkia approached, wiping her tears. And now we do too. Naya held Asha's hand tightly. We're in this together. Asha stared at the crumpled letter still in Barongo's wake. Her father's words, her mother's secrets, her own unexpected inheritance. Nothing made sense, but she felt one truth burning inside her. The danger had only just begun. Kato slowly stood and looked at the dark exit where Barongo had disappeared. We need to get back inside, he said. He'll strike again, and next time he won't leave empty-handed. Asha nodded, tears mixing with rainwater on her face. She looked toward the storm. Somewhere out there, Barongo was already planning his next move, and she had a terrible feeling he wouldn't wait long. Rain hammered violently against the hospital windows as the group returned to the lobby, escorted by 2 tense security guards. Thunder boomed in the distance, rolling across the sky like an omen. Asha kept wiping her face with the back of her sleeve. She wasn't sure which drops were rain and which were tears. The letter's words echoed in her mind, blending with Barongo's threats until everything felt like a tangled knot of fear. When they reached the restricted wing, where Zawadi had been moved, a guard stopped them. Only immediate family, he said. Asha stepped forward before anyone else could speak. She's my mother, she whispered. The guard hesitated, then nodded and stepped aside. Malkia, Naya, and Dr. Kato followed closely behind, though Kato kept glancing over his shoulder, as if expecting Barongo to materialize from thin air. Inside the room, the lights were dim and the air thick with disinfectant. Zawadi lay unconscious again, the brief moment of strength earlier having drained her. Her breathing was shallow, and the steady beep of the monitor was both comforting and terrifying. Asha hurried to her side. Mama, she whispered, taking her mother's frail hand into her own. I'm here. Zawadi didn't respond, but her fingers twitched faintly. It was enough to make Asha lean down and press her forehead against the back of her hand. Kato stepped beside them, checking the IV lines and monitors. Her vitals are stabilizing. The antidote is working, but slowly. She's fighting hard. Asha looked up, eyes full of desperation. Did she hear what he said about my father? About the letter? Kato shook his head gently. She was too weak to process what happened after she collapsed again. She didn't hear. Asha nodded, relieved but overwhelmed. She looked toward the crumpled envelope Malkia held carefully in her hand. The paper seemed heavier than it should be, as if it carried the weight of a lifetime. Can I have the letter? Asha asked. Malkia swallowed hard. Her voice cracked. Of course. She passed it to the girl with trembling hands. Asha held it as though it were a sacred relic. She slid onto the small chair beside the bed, clutching both her mother's hand and her father's last words. She didn't read it again, not yet. The pain was too fresh. Instead, she pressed the letter to her chest and closed her eyes. For a moment, the room was silent, until Malkia spoke softly. There is more, Kato stiffened. More, Malkia nodded. Barongo is not acting alone. He never has. His father left behind followers, men who believe the stolen land is their birthright. They formed a group, a secret one. They call themselves the Heirs Circle. Naya stepped closer to her mother, fear flickering in her eyes. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me that? Because Malkia whispered, I spent my entire life trying to distance myself from the sins of our fathers. I didn't want you growing up in shadows I could barely escape. Doctor. Kato crossed his arms. If they're a group, we need to notify the police. Malkia shook her head. No official authority will believe this unless we have proof. And the Heirs Circle has people everywhere. Politicians, land officers, even hospital donors. Kato's eyes widened. You're saying someone inside this hospital could be helping him. I'm saying, Malkia replied grimly. Barongo knew exactly where Zawadi was. Someone tipped him off. Asha felt cold wash over her skin. But who, she asked. A voice answered from behind them. I might know. Rama stood in the doorway, hands shaking as she clutched the hem of her scrubs. She looked pale, nervous, and more frightened than Asha had ever seen her. Kato stepped toward her. Rama, what's wrong? Rama swallowed. There is something I didn't tell you earlier. Something I overheard last week but didn't think mattered at the time. Tell us, Kato urged gently. Rama looked at Asha, then Zawadi, then Malkia. 3 days ago, she whispered, I saw Mr. Maybelle, the hospital director, speaking to a man in the parking lot. A tall man with scars. I didn't know his name then, but now I'm sure. Asha's heart dropped. Barongo. Rama nodded. Yes, they argued, loudly. Mbele kept telling him he wanted nothing to do with the land. Barongo said he had no choice, that the circle expected loyalty. Malkia exhaled sharply. So Mbele is part of it. Rama stepped fully into the room. There's more. They all held their breath. He mentioned Rama whispered a document that would change everything about the land dispute. He said it was hidden with the girl's future, whatever that means. Asha looked down at the letter in her hands, her stomach twisted. That's me, she murmured. Cato turned toward Malkia. Where is the deed? If your father never returned it, then your family must still have access to. He did return it, Malkia interrupted. He gave it to someone for safekeeping, but I don't know who. After his death, the circle seized everything they could, documents, records, land claims, but the deed, it disappeared. Cato frowned. Someone must have it. A soft, weak voice rose from the bed. I know where it is. Everyone turned at once. Zawadi's eyes were open only barely, but filled with a painful clarity. Her breath trembled as she tried to speak. Mama Asha cried, leaning in close. Zawadi lifted a trembling hand and placed it on Aisha's cheek. I'm here, my child. You shouldn't talk, Cato warned gently. No, Zawadi rasped. I must, while I can. The room fell silent. Zawadi shifted her gaze toward Malkia, and something unspoken passed between them. Not hatred, not anger. Something deeper buried history resurfacing. Malkia, she whispered, do you remember the old chapel on the edge of our village? The one your father built? Malkia nodded slowly. Yes. He said it was a gift to the people. Zawadi shook her head weakly. It wasn't. It was a hiding place. Cato leaned forward. For the deed. For many things, Zawadi whispered. My mother discovered his secrets. She hid the deed inside the chapel walls the night before she died. Asha felt chills crawl down her spine. How do you know? Zawadi closed her eyes, face twisting with pain. She told me, in her last breath. Cato's mind raced. If the deed is there, the heir's circle may know. No, Zawadi whispered. Only one other person knew. Malkia swallowed. Who? Zawadi opened her eyes again and looked directly at Malkia. Your father. The storm outside seemed to grow louder, pounding at the windows like a beast trying to enter. Cato rubbed his temples. If Barongo suspects the truth, then he'll go to the chapel. He'll tear the place apart. And we must get there first, Zawadi said firmly, though her voice trembled. Before he finds it, before he destroys everything. Asha's breath hitched. Mama, we can't leave you. Zawadi cupped her daughter's face gently. You must. That deed is your inheritance, your protection, your future. Tears streamed down Asha's cheeks. I don't care about land. I want you. Zawadi smiled sadly. And I want you safe. Everything I've done, every lie I've kept, it was to protect you. Asha shook her head, sobbing. We'll face it together. Zawadi touched her forehead to Asha's. My brave girl. Cato cleared his throat softly. We need to leave soon. The storm is getting worse, and Barongo may already be on the road. Malkia stood tall. I'll guide us. I know the route to the chapel. Naya grabbed her mother's hand. We're going too. Cato nodded. I'll drive, and I'll call for backup. He turned to Asha. You don't have to go inside when we get there, but you should come with us. Asha wiped her tears, breathing shakily. I'm coming, she whispered. I need to know the truth. Zawadi squeezed her hand one last time. Go, she whispered, and come back to me. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room with a cold white glow. Cato placed a hand on Asha's shoulder. It's time. As they stepped into the hallway, the lights flickered. For a moment, the entire hospital seemed to dim. A low, distant rumble echoed from somewhere deep within the building. Asha felt the hairs on her arms rise. It's him, she whispered. But Cato shook his head. No. Barongo is gone. A security guard ran toward them, panting. Dr. Cato, the director's office, was broken into. Mbele is missing. Malkia froze. Naya gasped. Aisha's heart lurched painfully. Cato's eyes sharpened. This just got worse, he murmured. And somewhere in the storm outside, two men, Barongo and Mbele, headed toward the same destination as them, the old chapel, the final battlefield. The storm raged like a living thing as Dr. Cato's car sped through the drenched streets, its headlights cutting narrow tunnels through the sheets of rain. Trees bent violently under the wind, branches slamming against each other like clashing bones. The sky flickered with angry flashes of white and blue, illuminating the terrified faces inside the vehicle. Asha sat in the back seat between Naya, who kept wringing the sleeves of her hoodie, and Malkia, who held tightly onto her daughter's hand. Asha pressed the damp letter against her chest, the paper soft from repeated folding. Every jolt of the car made her heart jump. Every shadow they passed made her glance over her shoulder, expecting Barongo's face to emerge from the darkness. "Are you all right back there?" Kato asked, eyes still fixed on the road. Asha nodded nervously. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Every part of her body shook, but she didn't want to worry anyone. The wipers scraped violently across the windshield as Kato leaned forward, squinting. "We're getting close. The village road should be up ahead." Malkia nodded. "Yes, just past that bend. The chapel is on the outskirts." Asha stared at the passing trees, her mind replaying her mother's voice. "Get the deed before he does." Her chest tightened. If Barongo reached the chapel first, if he found the deed, her mother's sacrifice, her father's death, her entire family's struggle would be for nothing. "We should have brought more guards," Naya whispered. "There wasn't enough time," Kato replied. "If we waited, Barongo would have beaten us here." And Mbele Malkia murmured darkly, "I knew he was a coward, but I did not expect him to side with the circle." Asha turned to her sharply. "Why? Why would he help Barongo power?" Malkia said. "The circle promised him a place in their future land division. Greed makes monsters out of small men." Lightning split the sky, and the road ahead became fully visible for a split second. A fallen tree blocked the path. Kato slammed the brakes. The car skidded, tires screeching violently on the rain-soaked road before finally lurching to a stop mere inches from the trunk. Asha gasped and grabbed Naya's arm. Kato cursed under his breath. "Damn it, we'll have to move it." "No," Malkia said quickly, her voice sharp with fear. "This is not random. Someone put it here." Kato's jaw clenched. "Barongo." "And he's close," Naya whispered. Kato turned off the engine but kept the headlights on. Rain hammered loudly against the roof of the car. "Everyone stay inside." "I'll check." "No," Asha blurted out. "Please don't go alone." Kato gave her a reassuring smile. "It's all right. I'll stay within sight." He stepped into the storm rain, drenching him instantly. He approached the fallen tree cautiously, scanning the darkness. Inside the car, Asha's pulse thundered. A gust of wind rocked the vehicle slightly, and her fingers dug into the seat. "He'll be okay," Naya whispered, but her voice was thin, uncertain. Malkia leaned toward the window, eyes narrowing. "Something's wrong." Asha followed her gaze. At first she saw nothing but rain and shadows, then shapes. Two figures watching from the trees. Then one stepped forward, Barongo. Asha's entire body froze. Naya gasped. "Oh no." Barongo stood under the cover of giant branches, rain cascading down his dark coat, his eyes lit with cold purpose. He didn't rush. He didn't yell. He simply watched Kato with the composure of a man enjoying a game. Kato Malkia shouted through the open window. "Behind you." Kato spun instantly, his fist raised ready. Barongo emerged fully into the light of the headlights, smiling. "We meet again," he called out through the storm. Kato positioned himself between Barongo and the car. "It's over. Turn back." "On the contrary," Barongo replied, "it's just beginning." He took a step forward, and out of the shadows stepped Mbele. The director's clothes were soaked, his face twisted with fear, but his eyes carried a desperate intensity. "Malkia," he shouted, "give him the letter." "No," Asha cried. "Silence," Mbele barked, pointing a shaking finger at her. "You don't understand what's at stake." "Oh, but she does," Barongo said smoothly. "Better than any of us." He nodded at Mbele, who began to circle the car from the right, while Barongo advanced from the left. "They're surrounding us," Naya whispered in terror. Kato backed slowly toward the driver's door. "Stay inside. Lock the doors." Before he could reach it, Barongo lunged fast, brutal. Kato dodged just in time, rolling on the wet ground. Asha screamed. Malkia reached for the back door, but Naya grabbed her arm. "Mom, don't." "They'll grab you." Barongo pounced again, landing a punch across Kato's jaw. Kato stumbled back, but swung in retaliation, hitting Barongo square in the ribs. Barongo barely flinched. He struck Kato again hard, sending him flying into the mud. "Kato!" Asha cried, her hand slamming against the window. Barongo didn't even look at the girl. "You interfere too much, Doctor," he murmured. "You're not part of this story. Not truly." Kato spat blood onto the ground. "I made myself part of it," Barongo smiled. "A mistake you won't repeat." He raised his foot, ready to bring it down on Kato. A roaring engine cut through the storm. Headlights exploded across the tree line. A vehicle shot toward them, Barongo jumped back an instant before a white pickup truck skidded across the mud, stopping beside their SUV. The doors flung open. 2 men jumped out, security guards from the hospital. "The doctor called us earlier," one shouted. "Backup's here," Barongo snarled. He grabbed Mbele by the arm. "Retreat." But the girl Mbele stammered. Now Barongo barked. In seconds they disappeared into the forest, like wolves vanishing into tall grass. The guards helped Kato to his feet. He winced in pain but forced himself upright. "Aisha," he called, and the girl tore out of the car the moment a guard opened the door. She flung her arms around him, sobbing. "I thought he killed you," Kato knelt shakily, wiping her tears with muddy hands. "I'm not leaving you. Ever." Malkia and Naya approached next, shaken but unharmed. "We need to move," Malkia said urgently. "They'll regroup." One of the guards looked at the fallen tree. "We can pull it aside with the truck." "Do it," Kato ordered. "We're running out of time." The men tied a rope around the tree trunk and used the pickup's force to drag it aside. The path slowly cleared. Once we reached the chapel, Kato said, breathing heavily but determined we get the deed and leave immediately. "But what if he gets there first?" Naya asked. Asha clenched her father's letter tightly. "Then we make sure," she whispered, "he doesn't leave with it." The storm roared overhead as the convoy of 2 vehicles pulled back onto the road. Every mile they drove, the forest grew denser, older, darker. And somewhere beyond the next bend lay the chapel where the truth of her family waited, buried in its walls. But so did Barongo. And only one of them would claim the future. The road narrowed as they approached the outskirts of the abandoned village. The trees grew taller, their twisted branches arching over the broken asphalt like skeletal arms. The storm had not weakened, it pounded harder, as though trying to wash away the path ahead. Thunder cracked above them, reverberating through the forest like a warning drum. Asha pressed her forehead against the cool window, trying to steady her racing heartbeat. The headlights cut through the darkness, revealing glimpses of old huts swallowed by vines, collapsed fences, and long-forgotten farmland drenched in mud. This was the place her mother had tried so desperately to leave behind. Beside her, Naya kept fidgeting with the zipper of her hoodie, her face pale. "I don't like this," she murmured. "Everything feels wrong." "It is wrong," Malkia replied quietly. Her eyes, dark with memory, scanned the decaying village. "This place holds secrets some better left buried. But we no longer have that choice." In the front seat, Kato gripped the steering wheel tighter. Even he felt the oppressive weight of the forest, the sense that they were driving straight into a beast's throat. Behind them, the white pickup truck followed closely, the guards alert and tense hands near their radios. Asha's small fingers gripped the crumpled letter her father had written. She traced the faded handwriting with her thumb. Bloodline, inheritance, future. Words that seemed too big for her young shoulders. The car slowed as the road came to an abrupt end, swallowed by overgrown grass and roots. "We walk from here," Kato said. Asha's stomach tightened. The forest beyond felt alive, watching. Malkia stepped out first, pulling her coat tightly around herself. "The chapel isn't far, just through those trees." Asha climbed out next, the rain immediately soaking her hair and clothes. She shivered violently. Kato placed an arm around her. "We stick together," he said. "No one separates." "Not even for a second." Naya nodded quickly. "Agreed." The guards from the pickup truck approached, wet but alert. "We'll walk in formation," one said. "2 in front, 2 behind," Good Kato replied. "Barongo and Mbele are somewhere in this forest. They know the land better than we do." Asha looked at the towering trees, their shadows moving strangely with every flash of lightning. She swallowed. "Let's go." They pushed into the forest. The ground squelched beneath their boots, each step sinking slightly into the mud. Rain dripped from the canopy in irregular droplets, mixing with the tapping sounds of water hitting dead leaves. Every sound felt amplified in the darkness. Asha stayed in the middle of the group, Kato's hand hovering protectively near her shoulder. Malkia walked ahead, guiding them through the dense undergrowth. "We used to come here for celebrations," she said quietly, though no one had asked. "Weddings, harvest blessings. Before everything changed," her voice caught slightly. "Before our fathers ruined this land." Naya squeezed her hand. Kato glanced at Asha. "How are you holding up?" "I'm scared," she said honestly. "But I have to be here." He nodded. "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to act despite it." Asha nodded, though her heart still thudded painfully. Another crack of lightning illuminated the forest, and Asha saw something that made her stumble. A figure. A tall silhouette standing behind a tree, watching them. She gasped. Someone's there. The guards swung around immediately, flashlights slicing across the trees. But the figure was gone. Asha, Kato said, kneeling beside her, "What did you see? Someone tall, watching us." He was right there. A guard scanned the area again. Could have been an animal. "This forest has hyenas, wild dogs," No, Asha whispered. "It wasn't an animal." Malkia stiffened. "He's here. Barongo is close." The air around them felt heavier. The guards urged, "We need to move faster." They continued pushing deeper through the trees, until finally, a shape emerged through the storm. A small stone chapel, or what remained of it. The walls were cracked and moss-covered, the roof partially collapsed. Ivy crawled across the front, and the old wooden door hung crooked on rusted hinges. It looked abandoned for decades, forgotten by time. Ash's heart pounded. "This is it," "Yes," Malkia said. "My father built it after stealing the land. He claimed it was a gift, but it was only a hiding place for documents he feared to lose." Asha stared at the chapel. It didn't look like a place where truth would be found. It looked like a grave. Lightning flashed, and for a moment, Asha thought she saw movement near the side of the building. Kato whispered, "Everyone inside." Quickly, the group hurried toward the chapel, pushing open the groaning wooden door. The interior was dim-lit, only by lightning slipping through cracks in the roof. Dust floated in the air. Wooden pews lay overturned, broken, and rotting. On the far wall, the remnants of an altar stood beneath a shattered stained glass window. "This is where your grandmother hid the deed," Zawadi had said. Behind the altar, Malkia murmured, now almost to herself. She must have placed it behind the foundation stones. One of the guards approached the altar cautiously. "We'll need tools to pry anything open." Kato nodded. "We'll search the walls. Look for any loose stones or hollow sections." As they spread out, Aisha wandered toward the left corner of the chapel. Something tugged at her instincts. The walls here looked slightly different. Newer, or perhaps restored once long ago. She touched one stone lightly. It shifted. "Malkia," she called. "I think something's here." Malkia rushed over, her eyes widening. "Yes, this looks like the right area." The guards moved to assist, carefully pulling away stones, stacking them aside. Asha held her breath. Behind the third stone was a small, hollow compartment. Inside it, wrapped in black cloth, lay a rectangular wooden box. Aisha gasped. "It's there. It has to be." Kato approached. "Careful." Malkia reached inside with shaking hands and pulled the box out. The cloth was damp with age, and the wood beneath it bore scratches and discoloration. Asha's heart hammered so violently she felt dizzy. Malkia set the box on the floor and slowly lifted the lid. Inside, a bundle of documents tied with an old ribbon. Asha whispered, "That's it. The deed, the proof." Before she could reach for it, a deafening crack echoed through the chapel. The door slammed shut behind them. Everyone spun around. Lightning illuminated the figure blocking the entrance, Barongo, and beside him, Mbele. Barongo's eyes gleamed with triumph. "You've done the hard work for me," he said. "How thoughtful." The guards raised their weapons instantly. "Don't move," Barongo laughed. "You think you can threaten me? In my land," he stepped aside. Two more men slipped into the chapel, both armed with crude machetes and long hunting knives. Members of the Heirs Circle. Asha's stomach dropped. Kato pulled her behind him. "Stay back. Don't move." Malkia stood over the wooden box, shielding the documents with her body. "You'll have to go through me to get them." Barongo's expression didn't change. Gladly. He nodded to one of his men. The man charged toward Malkia, but a guard intercepted him. Chaos exploded. Thunder roared. Two fights erupted on opposite ends of the chapel. Barongo walked forward slowly, directly toward Asha. "Give me the box," he said calmly, "and no one else needs to die." Asha shook her head, trembling. "No, your father died protecting this," Barongo said. "Will you kill more for it? My father died because of you," Asha whispered. Barongo's jaw clenched. "Give me the deed." Kato stepped between them, blood already trickling from a cut on his cheek. "You won't touch her." Barongo tilted his head. "Then I'll start with you." He lunged. Asha screamed, and the storm outside howled as if the forest itself was watching. The sound of Barongo's boots pounding across the chapel floor felt like a physical force, every step rattling the rotten pews and sending dust spilling from the fractured rafters. Asha gripped the back of Kato's shirt, her fingers trembling violently. Everything inside her screamed for her to run, to hide, to disappear into the shadows, but her legs wouldn't move. Kato met Barongo head-on. Their bodies collided with a brutal crack, the impact echoing through the chapel like a gunshot. Kato staggered but didn't fall. He pivoted, blocking Barongo's fist with his forearm and striking him back with a blow that would have downed a normal man. But Barongo was not normal. He absorbed the hit like stone absorbing rain. "You should have stayed in the hospital," Barongo growled, grabbing Kato by the collar and hurling him against a wooden pew. The pew shattered. Kato collapsed onto the splintered wood, coughing, as dust billowed around him. "Kato," Asha cried. "Stay back!" He rasped, pushing himself up despite the pain rippling down his spine. Behind them, the rest of the chapel had erupted into chaos. One guard grappled with a machete-wielding Ayers Circle thug near the broken altar. Another guard wrestled with Mbele, who swung wildly, fueled by fear rather than skill. Mbele shouted incoherent arguments between punches. "It was never supposed to be like this. You promised me protection." Barongo ignored him entirely, focused only on Asha and the wooden box at Malkia's feet. Malkia stood over it like a lioness, refusing to move, even when a blade slashed the air dangerously close to her shoulder. Naya held a broken chair leg, defending her mother with surprising fierceness, swinging it at anyone who came close. "It's mine!" Mbele shrieked, lunging for the box. "No," Malkia shoved him back, her voice slicing with fury. "This deed was never yours. Your greed caused this nightmare." Mbele spat rainwater and dust. "Your father owed us. The land is Circle property. Your family hid it. My family paid in blood for your father's crimes," Malkia screamed. Another flash of lightning illuminated the chapel, just as Barongo seized Kato and slammed him into the stone wall. The impact knocked the breath out of him. Asha screamed again. "Stop, leave him alone." Barongo didn't even look at her. His fingers tightened around Kato's throat. "I told you, you were never part of this story." Kato clawed at Barongo's grip, his vision blurring, oxygen slipping from his lungs. Barongo's face twisted with something more than hatred, obsession. Fury that stretched back generations. "You protect them," Barongo hissed. "Then die for them." Asha's heart stopped. "No." Without thinking, she charged forward. Her small hands grabbed Barongo's arm and tried to pull him away. Barongo released Kato not because Asha's strength was enough, but because her courage stunned him. He looked down at her with a strange mix of annoyance and curiosity. "You're braver than the rest," he murmured. "Your father was the same. He faced death like a man." Asha's tears mixed with rain dripping from her hair. "My father died saving my mother, saving me." Barongo tilted his head. "He died in my way. You will too, unless you give me what I want." Kato gasped on the floor, clutching his throat. "Asha, don't listen." But Barongo was already walking toward Malkia. "Step aside," he ordered. "I won't tell you again." Malkia stood firm. "You'll take this deed over my dead body," that Barongo said with a cold smile can be arranged. He stepped toward her, but before he could reach the altar, the chapel door slammed open again. A figure stood there, soaked, shaking, eyes burning with something fierce and unbroken. Zawadi. She clutched the doorframe for support, her hospital gown plastered against her skin. Her hair drenched her feet bare on the muddy stone floor. She looked ghostly fragile, yet she radiated a raw determination that made even Barongo freeze for a breath. "Asha," she whispered. "Come here." Asha ran to her, throwing her arms around her mother's waist. "Mama, why did you come? You're so sick, I told you." Zawadi lifted her chin weakly, eyes locked on Barongo. "I would never let him touch you. Not again." Barongo's lips curled into a snarl. "You should have died back then, Zawadi. You've caused enough trouble. Your mother hid the deed. Your father protected you. And now you raise a daughter who stands between me and what is mine." Zawadi's voice shattered the air. "It was never yours." Her legs buckled, but she steadied herself, pulling Asha behind her. Barongo stepped forward slowly, fury simmering. "Give me the papers." "No." Zawadi's voice was a whisper, but it carried the weight of every wound she'd endured. "You already stole our land. You stole my childhood. You took my husband. You will not take my daughter's future." Barongo's patience snapped. He lunged, but he didn't reach her. Because Kato, bleeding and battered, tackled him from the side with one last surge of strength. They crashed into a row of pews, splinters exploding everywhere. "Get the deed," Kato shouted through gritted teeth. Malkia grabbed the wooden box and tore out the bundle of documents. Aisha catched she threw it. Aisha reached up with trembling hands just as lightning struck nearby, shaking the entire chapel. The deed flew from her fingers, landing several feet away. Everyone froze for one heartbeat. Then chaos erupted again. Mbele sprinted for the papers, screaming, It's mine. It belongs to M.E. Naya tackled him, knocking him into the mud. You monster! One of Barongo's men lunged for the deed, but Malkia swung a broken pew panel and struck him across the back. He collapsed with a roar. Aisha scrambled toward the papers, mud splashing around her knees. She grabbed the bundle and found herself face to face with Barongo. He grabbed her wrist. Hard! Give it to me, he growled. No, Asha pulled back, but his grip was iron. Zawadi screamed. Let her go. Kato threw himself at Barongo again, but this time Barongo was ready. He shoved Kato aside, sending him crashing onto the stone steps at the altar. Your fight is with me, Barongo Zawadi cried, stepping forward despite her shaking legs. Leave her out of this, Barongo twisted Asha's wrist cruelly. Then give me the deed. Tears streamed down Asha's face, not from pain but from fury. No, she whispered. My father died protecting this. My mother nearly did too. I won't give it to you, Barongo bared his teeth. Then I'll take it from your corpse. He raised his free hand to strike her. Asha squeezed her eyes shut. But the blow never came. A loud crack echoed. Barongo froze. He released Asha's wrist and staggered backward. Behind him, Malkia stood chest heaving, holding a long wooden beam she had swung with all the strength she had left. You will not hurt her, Malkia said, her voice shaking with rage. Not one more second. Barongo collapsed to his knees. His men, seeing their leader drop, fled into the storm through the broken side window. Mbele scrambled up and ran after them, screaming hysterically, slipping in the mud until his form disappeared into the darkness. For the first time, the chapel fell silent. The storm howled outside, but inside, there was only breathing, and crying, and relief. Asha crawled to her mother. Zawadi collapsed into her arms, hugging her so tightly Asha could barely breathe. You're safe, Zawadi whispered. You're safe, my child. Kato limped toward them, wincing. Is everyone okay? Naya nodded, tears streaming. Malkia dropped the beam, hands shaking violently. Asha looked at the deed clutched against her chest. It's ours, she whispered. Zawadi cupped her face. It always was. Now, the truth is free. But outside, thunder growled. The storm didn't feel finished, and neither was the war Barongo had started. Not yet. Rain poured through the shattered roof of the chapel, forming muddy puddles across the cracked stone floor. Lightning flickered again and again, painting everything in violent flashes of white. For a few breathless moments, no one moved. The echoes of the fight still trembled in the walls, as if the building itself had absorbed the terror. Asha still held the deed and her father's letter tight against her chest. Her breaths came fast and shallow, but she didn't let go, not even when her hands started shaking. Zawadi remained kneeling beside her, one arm wrapped protectively around her daughter's shoulders, the other gripping the edge of a pew to keep herself upright. Every breath she took sounded strained, almost painful. Kato, leaning against a pillar for support, drew a deep breath. We need to leave, he said hoarsely. Now. This place isn't safe. Malkia nodded, though her legs wobbled beneath her. The circle will send more men. Barongo doesn't operate alone. Naya hurried to her mother's side, helping support her weight. Mom, we can't stay here another second. We won't, Malkia said, though her voice trembled. Asha glanced at the collapsed form of Barongo, lying near the front of the chapel. Rainwater splashed across his clothes and pooled around him, washing away the mud and blood. His chest rose and fell shallowly. Kato noticed her staring. Don't go near him, he warned. He's not dead, Asha whispered. No, Kato replied. But he's down long enough for us to get out. Asha hesitated. There was a strange weight in her chest, something like fear, something like anger, something like pity. She hated it. She didn't want to feel anything for the man who had destroyed her family. But seeing him defeated, broken smaller than the monster she had imagined, it was disorienting. Zawadi gently squeezed her shoulder. He is not your burden, she murmured. We take what is ours and leave him to answer for what he's done. Asha nodded slowly. But before anyone could move, a sound rose above the storm. Not thunder, not wind, a scream of pure panic. It came from deep within the forest outside. Everyone froze. What was that? Naya whispered, fear spiking in her voice. It wasn't Barongo, Kato murmured, scanning the windows. He's here. That came from outside. One of the guards who'd been leaning against a wall, catching his breath after the fight, stumbled to the broken window and peered into the dark trees. Someone's out there, he shouted. Running this way, they all turned. Through the sheets of rain, a lone figure appeared, stumbling, slipping in the mud, desperately trying to keep his footing as he sprinted toward the chapel. Mbele. His hair stuck to his forehead, his clothes torn, his face streaked with mud and tears. The terror in his eyes was unmistakable. He burst through the chapel door, collapsing onto the floor. "They're coming," he screamed. "They're coming," he sent them all. Cato knelt beside him cautiously. "Mbele, calm down. Who's coming, the circle?" Mbele sobbed. "Barongo's men, more of them. He sent a message before he confronted you." He pointed a trembling finger toward the forest. "They're coming to burn the chapel. Burn everything. They're almost here." A flash of light outside cut him off. Not lightning, fire, torches. Moving closer. Asha gasped. Zawadi's grip on her tightened. Malkia stared in horror. No, they can't. They would, Cato said grimly. They want the deed destroyed. And us with it. Naya let out a choked sob. "We have to run. Wait," Asha cried. "My mother, she can't run fast." Zawadi pressed her forehead against Asha's. "I will try, my child. I will try with every piece of strength I have left." Cato looked around the chapel frantically. "We need another exit. The front is blocked." One of the guards pointed toward the collapsed side wall. "There's a gap there. It leads down a slope into the forest. We can slip through before they reach the front." "That's our way out," Cato said firmly. Malkia pushed herself up straighter. "We have to move now." But Asha's gaze drifted toward Barongo again. He was still unconscious, still breathing, still dangerous. "Leave him," Zawadi whispered, reading her thoughts. "He made his choices. But if they find him," Asha whispered, "they'll take him. They'll help him. He'll come back." Cato met her eyes. "He will stand trial," he said quietly. "For your father, for your mother, for everything he's done. But we can't fight the circle tonight. Not here. We have to live first." Asha swallowed hard, then nodded. The guards lifted Zawadi, gently supporting her weight between them. She winced but bit her lip to stay silent. Asha held her mother's hand tightly, refusing to let go. Malkia grabbed the wooden box containing the documents. "I have it. Let's go." Cato turned to Mbele. "You're coming with us." Mbele shook his head furiously. No, they'll kill me. You can stay here and let them burn you alive," Cato snapped, "or stand up and run." Mbele stared at the flames drawing closer outside, then scrambled to his feet and followed. The group rushed toward the collapsed side wall. Wind whipped through the opening, spraying rain into the chapel. The mud outside was thick, but the slope wasn't too steep. Cato climbed through first to test the ground. It's stable, one guard helped Zawadi through the gap, followed by Asha squeezing into the narrow opening. But the moment she stepped outside, Asha froze. In the distance beyond the trees, she saw dozens of moving lights, torches, the circle, coming straight for them. "They're close," Asha shouted. Then another flash of lightning revealed something that made her blood run cold. A large truck. Barongo's men were pouring gasoline around the perimeter of the forest. "They're setting a fire line," Cato yelled. "We have to get out now," Zawadi gasped for breath. "I can't. Move fast." "Asha, I'm not leaving you," Asha cried. Malkia grabbed Zawadi's other arm. "We'll carry her if we must." Behind them a roar rose from the chapel entrance. Barongo's men had reached the door. There, one shouted. They escaped through the side. Flames flickered higher as torches were raised. "Run," Cato ordered. The forest erupted with movement, branches, snapping leaves, thrashing feet, pounding mud. Asha held the deed close against her chest as she ran beside her mother and Malkia, slipping, stumbling, catching herself each time. The guards led the way, cutting a path through the dense undergrowth. But behind them shouts grew louder, closer. "They're gaining," Naya cried. Asha forced herself to look forward. A faint light glowed through the trees. A road. "We're almost there," Cato shouted. But then a scream tore through the forest behind them. Mbele. A man grabbed his ankle, one of Barongo's men, and dragged him into the bushes. "No," Mbele shrieked. "Please, no." His cries were swallowed instantly. Asha trembled but kept running. She felt Zawadi falter beside her. Mama Zawadi stumbled, knees buckling. Cato rushed to her side, grabbing her before she hit the ground. "I've got her." Asha clutched her mother's hand with both of hers. "Hold on, Mama, please." Torches flared behind them. Shadows grew larger, closer. The forest was on fire. Cato lifted Zawadi onto his back despite his earlier injuries, muscles screaming under her weight. "Go," he yelled. They burst out of the trees and stumbled onto the dirt road. Just as the white pickup truck screeched into view, the driver, a third guard who had stayed behind, opened the doors. In now, everyone climbed in. Asha was the last. As she pulled herself into the truck, she saw him, Barongo, standing at the tree line, flames behind him, rain streaming down his face, his eyes locked with hers, full of hate, full of promise. This isn't over, he roared through the storm. You cannot escape your bloodline. The guards slammed the doors shut. Tires spun in the mud, and the truck tore down the road into the storm, leaving the burning forest and Barongo behind. But even as they fled, Asha knew he would come again. And the deed in her hands was both her salvation and her curse. The truck tore through the storm-soaked road mud, splashing in violent arcs as the tires struggled for grip. The forest behind them glowed in angry orange flames clawing at the sky. Every now and then, Asha caught glimpses of fire between the trees, like the land itself was burning in rage. Her heart hammered against her ribs with every jolt of the vehicle. Zawadi lay across Kato's lap in the back seat, her breath shallow and uneven. Kato held her tightly with one arm while bracing himself against the window with the other. Rain streaked down the glass, distorting the world outside into trembling, watery shapes. Asha stayed pressed against her mother's side, one hand gripping the deed so tightly her knuckles were white. The truck bounced over a pothole, and she cried out softly, but she refused to let go. It's okay, Kato murmured, though his voice shook. We're out of the forest. We're safe for now. But Asha shook her head. No, not while he's still alive. She didn't have to say Barongo's name. Everyone in the truck felt his shadow still following them. Up front, the guard driving glanced into the rearview mirror. The fire spreading fast. They won't follow us through that. Not tonight. Malkia, sitting in the passenger seat, with Naya gripping her arm, exhaled shakily. Thank God. Thank God. But Kato frowned. Don't trust the fire to stop them. They know side paths. Hidden trails. Barongo will try again. He always does, Zawadi whispered weakly. Asha tightened her grip on her mother's hand. Mama, please save your strength. Zawadi's eyes fluttered open. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and each breath seemed to cost her something precious. But her gaze held a fierce clarity. My strength, she murmured, is for you. Always. Asha's throat tightened. We'll get you back to the hospital. Dr. Kato will help you. Zawadi smiled weakly. I trust him. The truck bounced again, harder this time, and Kato winced. A bruise had formed across his ribs from Barongo's blows, and every movement sent pain shooting down his side. Naya glanced back. Doctor, Kato, are you okay? He gave a strained smile. Not really, but I'll live. Malkia turned. You saved all of us. Again. I don't know how to thank you. Kato shook his head. Just keep that deed safe. It's the only thing Barongo wants more than revenge. At that, Asha clutched the papers tighter, as though feeling Barongo's fingers reaching for them even now. But something about the forest fire bothered her. How did it spread so fast, she whispered. It was raining. So hard. The driver glanced back. Gasoline burns no matter what. They planned that fire. Asha nodded slowly. Her father's letter felt heavier in her pocket. She finally spoke the fear she'd been holding inside. It won't end, will it? Everyone looked at her. He'll keep coming, Asha said. As long as the deed exists. As long as I exist. Zawadi reached up and touched her daughter's face. No, she whispered. It will end. Because truth is stronger than fear. And because you're not alone anymore. Asha's eyes filled with tears. She leaned into her mother's trembling hand. But then, the truck jerked sharply. Everyone was thrown forward. What was that? Naya gasped. We hit something, the driver shouted. He slammed the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. Asha grabbed the seat to steady herself. What did we hit? The guard cursed. I don't know, stay inside. But before he could open the door, Kato grabbed his arm. No. Everyone stays in the truck until we know what's out there. Malkia peered through the windshield, her brow furrowing. It looks like debris. Rock's lightning flashed, and the road illuminated for one brief second. A large pile of stones and branches blocked the entire path. Asha's blood ran cold. That wasn't there before. No, Kato agreed. Someone put it here. Another flash of lightning. Someone stood on the road. A silhouette, tall, still, watching. The storm swallowed his features, but the outline was unmistakable. No, Asha whispered. He couldn't have. It's not Barongo, Kato murmured. He wouldn't get here before us. The fire blocked him. Then who? Naya began. A voice cut her off. I knew you'd choose this road. Everyone froze. The figure stepped forward just as lightning flashed again. It wasn't Barongo. It was a woman. Tall, hooded, rain-slick coat dripping, her posture rigid and poised. Malkia, gasped softly. No, it can't be. Naya gripped her mother's arm. Who is she? The woman lowered her hood. A cold, beautiful face emerged. Sharp cheekbones, dark, piercing eyes that held a familiar darkness. Hello, sister, the woman said. Asha's breath hitched. Sister, she whispered. Malkia's voice trembled with shock. Jalia, you're alive. Zawadi stiffened in Kato's arms. Even he looked stunned. Who is she? Asha asked again. Malkia swallowed painfully. My sister, Barongo's cousin. Aisha's mind spun. Barongo's cousin Zawadi closed her eyes. No, this is worse than I feared. Jalia stepped closer, rain hitting her face without making her blink. You have something that belongs to the circle, she said calmly. Give it to me and no one else gets hurt. Asha's heart pounded so loudly she felt dizzy. The deed seemed to burn against her skin. No, Zawadi rasped. You won't take it. Jalia's gaze flicked toward her. You should have died from the poison, but you never were easy to kill. Kato shoved the truck door open, stepping out into the storm. You won't harm them. Jalia raised her eyebrows. A doctor and 2 injured women against me. You underestimate who trained Barongo. Lightning cracked again, and in that brief flash, Asha saw it. A glint of metal in Jalia's hand. A blade. A long, curved hunting knife. Asha gasped. Dr. Kato Jalia lunged. Kato dodged just in time, rolling into the mud. The guards flung open the truck doors, rushing out with weapons drawn. Naya screamed. Malkia held her tight. Asha clutched the deed, heart slamming. Zawadi forced herself upright, despite the agony, shouting, Asha, run. Aisha froze for half a second, then grabbed the door handle and sprinted out of the truck. Aisha, Kato shouted. Jalia spun toward the girl, eyes gleaming. There, she murmured. The little heir. She charged. Asha ran faster than she'd ever run in her life, splashing through mud and rain. Trees blurred, fear blurred. Everything blurred except the deed in her hands. It had to survive. She had to survive. Behind her, Jalia's footsteps pounded the road. Closer. Closer. Asha stumbled and fell face first into the mud. The deed flew from her hands. No, she cried, reaching for it. A hand grabbed her ankle. Jalia! Asha screamed as Jalia yanked her backward. Let go, Asha cried, kicking frantically. But Jalia held tight. The circle will rise again. A sudden roar filled the air. Kato, he slammed into Jalia with his full weight, knocking her sideways. She hit the ground hard. Asha scrambled backward, gasping. Jalia recovered almost instantly like a predator and turned her blade toward Kato again. But she wasn't fast enough. Malkia charged. With a cry that ripped from years of buried guilt, she struck Jalia across the face with a large branch. Jalia fell to the ground unconscious. Everyone froze. Rain hammered. Asha gasped for breath, mud streaked across her face. Kato staggered, bleeding again. Zawadi collapsed in the truck. Malkia dropped the branch, shaking uncontrollably. We need to leave, Kato panted. Now. Before she wakes, a guard retrieved the deed from the mud and placed it gently in Asha's hands. She held it like her entire soul depended on it. And as they climbed back into the truck, Aisha realized something chilling. If Jalia had reached them before Barongo, then the circle was far bigger and far deadlier than any of them had imagined. The truck sped through the rain-drenched darkness once more, the engine straining as it carved a path away from the fiery forest and the fallen ambush. Inside, everyone was silent, too shaken, too exhausted, and too aware that the night was far from over. The storm hammered relentlessly on the metal roof, a constant reminder that danger still hovered around them like a shadow waiting to strike. Asha sat, clutching the deed with both hands, her small fingers caked with mud. Her hair clung to her cheeks. Her breath trembled every time she inhaled. She kept glancing toward the rear windshield, expecting Jalia, or worse, Barongo, to appear at any moment. But behind them there was only rain and darkness. Zawadi lay on the seat beside her with her head on Kato's lap, eyes half open, breathing shallowly. The chase, the cold, the poison still lingering in her veins, all of it was wearing her down, Mama Asha whispered. Zawadi forced a weak smile. I'm still here. Kato stroked Zawadi's damp hair gently. His hands shook not only from the pain in his ribs but from fear. He had seen many patients, many injuries, but Zawadi's condition worried him more than he dared admit. She needs a hospital now, he said urgently to the driver. No more delays. Head straight to the city facility. Malkia twisted around from the passenger seat to look at him, her face pale. We can't go to the same hospital. Mbele compromised it. If the circle has people inside, they won't follow us to the city, the guard insisted. Too many police in that area. They have influence everywhere, Kato countered. But we don't have a choice. Zawadi won't last another hour in this storm. Aisha's hands trembled. Please hurry. The truck picked up speed. Wind lashed through the cracks in the windows. The headlights reflected off the flooded road, creating fleeting illusions, trees bending like figures, reaching for the truck, shadows darting across the path. Every jolt of the vehicle made Asha jump. Naya reached over and took Asha's hand. You're doing great, she whispered. You didn't drop the deed. You survived them. Asha nodded slowly. But, Jalea said something. She called me the little heir. Like I'm important. But why? Her voice was small, afraid of the truth she might find. Malkia exchanged a look with Kato. Then she took a slow breath. Asha, your grandmother wasn't just a landowner, Malkia began. She was the legal custodian of the entire region, the one person who stood between the circle and their complete control. The land was entrusted to her family long before my father stole it. Asha swallowed. So, the deed belongs to me, yes, Malkia said, by bloodline, by inheritance, and by law. Asha blinked, her mind spinning. Bloodline, inheritance, future. The words from her father's letter suddenly clicked into place. My father knew, Asha whispered. Zawadi shifted, slightly wincing. He knew everything. Asha turned to her mother. Mama, please, tell me the truth. Zawadi's eyes softened with sorrow and love. She brushed Asha's cheek weakly. Your father was not like the others. He was born into the circle, but he rejected everything they stood for. He fell in love with your grandmother's daughter, with me. He chose us over them. Asha's lips parted in shock. My father was part of the circle. He was their future leader, Zawadi whispered. Their chosen heir. That's why Barongo despised him. That's why they fought. And that's why he died, Kato added quietly. Asha felt her chest tighten painfully. So, Barongo didn't just hate you. He hated my father more. He hated your father for choosing what was right, Malkia said softly. And he hated you because you represent everything he never will, an heir who refuses corruption. Asha leaned back against the seat, her breath escaping in shaky bursts. Then the land, the deed, the legacy. Her voice trembled. It's all supposed to be mine. Zawadi reached for her hand. It is yours, my child. But I hid it to keep you safe. Asha felt the air leave her lungs. Her entire life had been shaped by a truth she never knew. The reason they kept moving, the reason they hid, the reason danger followed them, everything tied back to her. I don't want it, she whispered. I don't want people dying because of me. Zawadi cupped her daughter's face with both trembling hands. Asha, listen to me. Tears spilled down Asha's cheeks. You were never the cause of this, Zawadi said gently. You are the hope that our families never had. You are the one who can end the circle's rule forever by owning what is rightfully yours. But I'm scared, Asha sobbed. It means you understand how heavy the responsibility is, Malkia said quietly. But you won't bear it alone. I will stand with you. So will Naya, and so will Dr. Kato. Kato nodded despite the pain. You are not alone, not now, not ever. Asha rubbed her eyes, trying to steady herself. But what do we do now? Malkia looked out the rain-soaked window. We take the deed to the city government office. They will place it in legal custody. Once it's officially recognized, Barongo can no longer claim the land, and he'll be arrested, Naya added. Kato sighed. If he can be caught. Everyone fell silent. Asha's gaze fell to the deed again. The ink was old, the paper frayed, yet it contained power strong enough to drive men mad. Suddenly, the truck jerked violently. The driver swore. Damn it, what happened? Naya cried. We hit something again, but this time the truck didn't skid to a stop. It rolled. Time slowed. The truck tilted sharply to the right wheels, losing contact with the muddy ground. Aisha clutched the seat in panic. The deed flew from her hands and spun through the air like a fluttering bird. Zawadi screamed Asha's name. Kato grabbed both of them and pulled them against him as the truck flipped. Once. Twice. Glass shattered. Metal screamed against asphalt. Rain blasted through broken windows. Mama Asha cried. Naya Malkia screamed. Asha, hold on, Kato yelled. The truck slammed onto its side. Silence. Rain. Groaning metal. Then a slow, chilling sound. Boots. Boots walking through the mud outside. Aisha's head throbbed, her vision blurry. She tried to push herself upright, but her arms trembled uncontrollably. Lightning flashed. A face peered into the shattered window. Not Barango, not Jalia, a new man, a stranger. His eyes were cold, hollow, trained. He wore a black coat with a symbol stitched on the sleeve. A circle of thorns. Asha gasped. One of the heirs. He leaned close to the window and whispered, "Found you." Asha's scream caught in her throat. Outside, more figures emerged, shadows in the rain. The circle had arrived. Rain poured through the shattered windows of the overturned truck, mixing with the smell of gasoline and metal. Asha blinked through the haze, her ears ringing, her stomach rolling. She tried to push herself up, but her arms trembled so violently that she slipped back onto the tilted floor. "Asha," a faint voice whispered. "Zawadi." Asha turned sharply. Her mother lay half-pinned beneath a seat, blood trickling from her forehead, her breaths thin and rapid. Cato crouched beside her despite the pain in his ribs, trying desperately to lift the crushed metal. "It won't move," he gasped, his voice hoarse. "The frame is twisted." Malkia groaned from somewhere behind them, her hand pressed to her side. Naya, coughing from the dust and impact, crawled toward her mother. One of the guards was unconscious, bleeding heavily. The other guard struggled, but his leg was trapped under the shattered front console. The chaos inside the truck felt suffocating, but it was nothing compared to the danger outside. Through the broken windshield, Asha could see them, shadows moving in the rain, torches flickering like eyes in the dark. Figures stepped into the faint glow of lightning. Men in black coats. Symbols of the thorn circle stitched to their sleeves. The air's circle. Asha's heart dropped. "Mama," she whispered, barely breathing. Zawadi's trembling hand reached for her. "Listen, you must get out. You must run." "No," Asha choked. "No, I won't leave you, Asha," Zawadi rasped. "You must survive this night. You must protect the deed. Everything depends on you." But how Asha pleaded. "They're already here." Her voice died as a figure approached the shattered window. He leaned down, rain dripping from the hood of his coat. He slid the hood back. His face was marked with scars and cruel calmness. "I'm impressed," he said quietly. "You made us chase you farther than expected." Cato positioned himself in front of Asha, and Zawadi, eyes burning with defiance. "You won't touch them." The man tilted his head. "Doctor, why do you keep interfering? This fight isn't yours. It became mine the moment innocent lives were threatened." Cato snapped. The man smirked. "Your nobility is wasted here." He raised one hand. 3 more heirs approached the truck. Asha clutched the deed against her chest instinctively, but as she looked down, she realized it wasn't there. Her heart lurched. During the crash, when the truck flipped, the deed had flown out of her hands. And now, her eyes darted desperately across the muddy ground outside. A flash of lightning illuminated it. There, half buried in mud a few feet from the truck, the deed. The wind almost snatched Asha's breath away. One of the heirs saw where she was looking. His eyes followed hers. He spotted the deed. "There," he said. "Bring it." Asha lunged toward the broken window. Cato grabbed her arm. "No, Asha," but she pulled free. She knew one thing with absolute certainty. If the circle got the deed, her family's blood, her father's sacrifice, her grandmother's courage, everything would be erased. Forever. With a desperate cry, she scrambled through the broken frame of the window and tumbled into the mud outside. Asha Naya screamed from inside the truck. The girl hit the ground hard, skidding across the mud. Pain shot up her elbow, but she forced herself up. Rain flooded her eyes. Thunder boomed overhead. The air closest to the deed lunged toward it. Asha sprinted. Her bare feet slapped the mud, slipping, sliding, almost falling, but she didn't stop. The man reached his hand out. Asha dove. Her fingers closed around the deed. The man snarled and grabbed her wrist. "Give it to me." She twisted, bit down on his hand so hard he screamed and let go. Asha turned and ran blindly into the darkness. The circle erupted behind her. "After her! She's heading toward the forest, don't lose her." Lightning illuminated the road again, and Asha saw branches and a downhill path ahead. She sprinted toward them, chest-burning breath ripping from her lungs. Behind her, boots thundered, voices yelled. The storm swallowed everything. Branches whipped her face, mud splashed up her legs. Roots snagged her ankles. She stumbled, tripped, caught herself, and kept running. Her mind screamed one thing: Don't let them take it. Don't let them take it. Don't let them take it. She stumbled through the thick undergrowth, heart-hammering, lungs burning. Her legs felt like they would collapse at any moment, but she pushed harder, faster, until she burst into a clearing, a dead end. Tall rocks and tangled vines blocked her path. She spun. The heirs were already entering the clearing. Torches glowed in their hands. Their silhouettes blocked every escape route. Asha backed away until her spine hit the rock wall. Her fingers tightened around the deed. The leader stepped forward. Enough running, he said softly. We don't want to hurt you. Asha shook her head violently. You're lying. You want to kill us. All of us. He sighed. The circle, once balance restored. That land was never meant for your family. Give us the deed. No. His jaw tightened. You are a child, he said. You do not understand the burden you carry. I understand enough, Asha whispered, her voice breaking but firm. I know my father died to protect this. I know my mother almost did. I know you want to erase us. And we will, he replied coldly. He moved toward her. Asha shut her eyes. She held the deed against her heart. Lightning split the sky. A crash of thunder rolled. And a roar came from behind the heirs. A familiar voice. A furious voice. Get away from her. It was Cato. And he wasn't alone. The remaining guards stumbled into the clearing behind him, limping but standing. And behind them, someone else emerged. Malkia, soaked, bleeding but unbroken. And Naya, holding a long branch like a spear. You want the child, Malkia shouted. You'll go through all of us. Asha's eyes widened. Mama Asha whispered. Because behind the trio being held upright by Cato was Zawadi. Barely standing, barely breathing. But standing. For my daughter. Zawadi whispered, voice weak but unyielding. I will fight you all. The circle hesitated. A storm gust tore through the clearing. Rain slammed down harder. Zawadi lifted her chin. And the heirs saw something in her. Something ancient. Something unbroken. Something sacred. The leader faltered. And that was enough. Cato lunged. A fight exploded in the clearing. Torches fell. Mud flew. Screams filled the storm. Asha clutched the deed and pressed herself against the rock wall, sobbing. Her family fought like lions around her. Zawadi dropped to her knees but kept swinging. Malkia struck with fury, born from guilt. Naya screamed and attacked anyone who got close. Cato fought like a man with nothing left to lose. And slowly, the circle faltered. One by one they fell back, retreated, fled into the storm, until only the leader remained. He glared at Asha, drenched in rain and mud. This is not over, he hissed. The circle does not fall in one night. Cato stepped between him and Asha. No, Cato growled. But one day she will end you all. The man glared, then ran into the darkness. Silence settled. A heavy silence broken only by Asha's sobs. She rushed to her mother. Zawadi collapsed into her daughter's arms, gasping. Mama, hold on, Asha cried. Please don't leave me, Zawadi stroked her hair. Asha, my light, my brave child, you saved us all. No, Asha sobbed. I just wanted you to live. Zawadi leaned her forehead against Asha's. I will, she whispered. Cato knelt beside them. We need to move. Now. She needs urgent care. Malkia nodded. There's a farmhouse nearby. My father used to store equipment there. It has emergency supplies. They lifted Zawadi carefully. Asha held the deed tight, not because she wanted it, but because she had earned it, and because her family had bled for it. As they walked through the rain, Asha realized something. Tonight she had stepped into her legacy, and nothing would ever be the same. The rain began to soften into a cold drizzle by the time the battered group reached the old farmhouse Malkia had spoken of. It stood crooked and half-collapsed at the edge of an abandoned field, its roof sagging, its windows boarded, and its walls stained by years of neglect. Yet right now to Asha, it looked like a sanctuary, a thin sliver of hope in a night drowning in darkness. The door creaked loudly as Cato pushed it open. The inside smelled of dust mold and old wood, but it was dry. A few rusted lanterns hung on the walls, and a lopsided table stood in the middle of the room. Lay her here, Malkia said, brushing away debris with her sleeve. Cato and the guard lowered Zawadi gently onto the table. Asha stood beside her mother, immediately clutching her shaking hand, refusing to let go. Zawadi's body trembled with exhaustion and pain. Her breathing was uneven, her skin cold. But her eyes remained open, searching for Asha, calming only when they found her. Naya hurried to rummage through the old storage cabinets. There must be something, bandages, alcohol, anything. Cato joined her, pulling open drawers and crates. I need clean fabric and water first. And fire, we need to warm her. She's losing body heat fast. I'll start the fire, one of the guards said, already gathering damp wood from outside. Asha leaned close to Zawadi's ear. Mama, stay awake. Please stay awake. Zawadi's lips twitched into a weak smile. I'm here, child. Don't close your eyes, Asha begged. Not again, not tonight. Zawadi squeezed her daughter's hand faintly. My daughter, you have your father's fire and your grandmother's strength. Asha's tears spilled down her cheeks. I just want you to live. I will, Zawadi whispered, because I must see the woman you will become. Before Asha could reply, Malkia returned with a lantern in hand. She knelt beside Zawadi, guilt etched deeply into her face. All of this happened because of what my father did, she said quietly. Because our families were torn apart by greed. If I had given that letter to you sooner, if I had warned you, maybe, Zawadi interrupted her with a soft, pained breath. We cannot change the past, but we can end this war, Malkia whispered. Asha lifted her head. How Malkia looked at her, really looked at her with a mixture of grief, admiration, and something like hope. By exposing the circle, she said, your father's letter, the deed, everything they've kept hidden for years. If we take these to the district authorities, the circle loses all power. The deeds will be recognized as legitimate. The land returns to you. Asha blinked. But I don't know how to fight them alone. You won't be alone, Malkia said. Not anymore. Naya chimed in, voice trembling but resolute. We'll stand with you. Whatever it takes. Cato nodded, tying strips of cloth tightly around Zawadi's wounds. We all will. Asha held the deed against her chest. For the first time that night, she felt something shift inside her, not fear, not confusion. Something steadier. Something rising. Courage. But the moment was shattered by a distant sound. A howl of wind. No, a low rumble. Engines, many of them. Cato froze. Everyone quiet. They listened. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Asha's stomach twisted. They found us, she whispered. The guard burst through the doorway. Vehicles approaching from the west. 3, no, 4 trucks. Malkia's eyes widened in terror. It's the circle. Naya grabbed her mother's arm. We can't outrun them. We can't fight them again. Cato stood up slowly, his face pale but determined. Then we make sure Asha gets out. What? Asha cried. No, I won't leave my mother. Zawadi reached up with trembling fingers and touched Asha's cheek. You must! My child! My hope! You must survive! You must carry the truth! Asha shook her head furiously. I won't leave you, Cato is right, Zawadi whispered. You are the heir to the land, but you are more than that. You are the heir to our fight, our story, our justice. Asha's breath broke. Zawadi met her daughter's eyes with fierce tenderness. My life, and your father's, cannot be in vain. You must finish what we began. Asha's knees trembled. Cato stepped forward. There's a hidden tunnel beneath the floorboards. Old farms in this region use them during tribal conflicts to hide children and elders. I saw the trapdoor outside. He pointed toward the back corner of the farmhouse. It leads to the lower valley. You can escape before the circle reaches us. Asha shook her head. No, not without Mama. Zawadi's grip tightened. Asha, go! The trucks outside grew louder, closer. Headlights pierced the rain. Voices shouted commands. They were seconds away. Zawadi pulled Asha close. If I die here, she whispered in her ear, promise me you will live. Promise me you will claim your future. Asha sobbed. I promise, Mama, I promise. Zawadi kissed her forehead. Cato grabbed Asha by the shoulders, looking directly into her eyes. Run! Don't stop! Don't look back! Asha clutched the deed and the letter to her chest. Malkia lifted the floorboard trapdoor, revealing a narrow passage descending into darkness. Asha, Malkia whispered, It's time. Asha looked back at her mother one last time. Zawadi, smiling softly through pain, her eyes full of love, full of pride. Go, my daughter, she whispered. Go and live. Asha turned away with a strangled cry and ran into the darkness. Naya followed her. Malkia lowered the trapdoor. Cato locked it from above just as pounding fists hit the front door of the farmhouse. The circle had arrived. Asha heard their shouts echoing above her as she stumbled down the passage, blinded by tears, clutching the deed and letter against her heart. She didn't know what would happen above. She didn't know if she would see her mother again, but she knew one thing: she would survive. She would protect their legacy, and she would end the circle, no matter what it cost. Sometimes life chooses a hero long before they understand what courage means. Asha's world crumbled in one night, filled with betrayals, danger, and truths too heavy for a child to bear. Yet even in her fear, she found the strength to protect what mattered most: love, family, and justice. True bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's stepping forward even when your heart trembles. And true legacy isn't land or power. It's the sacrifices made to protect the next generation. Asha's journey reminds us that hope is powerful enough to outlive violence, and that one honest heart can challenge even the darkest forces. If this story moved, you share your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another emotional African folktale.